Hello, everyone. It's Rachel and Nazirah, and we are Wavemakers. In today's podcast, we'll be looking at the topic of influencer fraud, specifically in the perspective of businesses on how to safeguard themselves. We'll be sharing stories from some new businesses from two different industries, hospitality and fashion. On this episode, we have Mia from Prasana by Arjani Resort Bali in Indonesia and Danielle Francis from Bloom Moda, who will be sharing stories from working with bad influences or good ones and how they learn to cope with it. So, I want to start with definition. When I think of fraud, I think of betrayal. And in the realm of marketing, it's usually when brands are misrepresented or when an agreement between a buyer and a seller is not honored. What about you, Nas? What does influencer fraud mean to you?
To me, influencer fraud means starting with practicing black hat marketing techniques, which includes using bots to gain followers and likes and comments, participating in comment pods where they have a separate group on Facebook and they basically tell them when they post and then they tell others, okay, I've just posted and now you can comment. And people just go to that post and just comment like a lot just to show that they're part of that engagement. So that for me is one of it, and then the other one is to basically deceive businesses into believing that they have high follower counts in order for them to pay more money. So overcompensating their fees when actually they're worth far less. Yeah,
That makes sense. So it seems like influencer fraud is a growing problem in an industry valued at over $1 billion.
that's a lot.
According to data findings from an anti fraud company called SwayOps, a single day's worth of posts tagged hashtag sponsor or hashtag ad on Instagram contain over 50% fake engagements, and out of 118,007 comments, only 20,942 were not made by bot followers.
Wow.
What do you think about these numbers, Nas?
That's crazy. I mean, I think it reflects our existing concerns of the industry and how there's a crucial need for us to dissect what constitutes fraud as a start. The funny thing is that you'll find that there are a lot of influencers out there who think that the use of softwares are actually legitimate. In fact, they think it's normal to invest in pods to increase growth. I mean, it's a way for them to show that they're legitimate, right? But as a marketeer, I completely disagree, and because it makes it harder for us to like justify to our clients on the perks of working with influencers. So it's not a good thing for us as an agency to say, yeah, do influencer marketing, when in reality it doesn't do anything if they're participating in all these black hat marketing techniques.
That is a tough one indeed. To quote MediaTel on this, in this age of distrust, it all comes down to verification and authenticity.
Yep.
I believe that there is a way to work around this by determining what is a good or bad influencer. What's your take on this?
I agree to that. And these days, there should be an additional step that brands or businesses take, including creating some kind of benchmark or like requirements or criterias that basically show that the influencer is adhering to these rules, for example. Only because you don't want to get disappointed, right? Like if a brand ends up working with an influencer without these benchmarks or rules, they're just going to end up being disappointed when they find out, for example, that they did participate in comment pods or they did buy followers. Let's just say, unfortunately, quite a lot of influencers out there don't have the right ethics in terms of gaining their community growth. And so a bad influencer in a nutshell would be comfortable with lying about their statistics and even use these softwares to manipulate their influence. So I believe that a good influencer would thrive on being real and authentic about their actual engagement, instead of like, showing like sneaky tactics and have like no professionalism, basically.
Right? That makes sense. And I think that's a great summary to start. I wonder what our guests have to share today about their experience when engaging with influencers for their businesses. So, at the end of today's podcast, we'll be, digesting their insights and hopefully share some best practices on what not to do when engaging with influencers.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, with that, I would like to introduce our featured guest today, Mia Ponidjan, the general manager of Prasana by Arjani Resorts, a stunning property tucked away in Uluwatu, Bali that features 21 luxury villas. And on the other side, we have Danielle Francis, founder and creator of a baby and children clothing fashion line called Bloom Moda that is based between United Kingdom and Spain. They create really cute and trendy clothing that
Yeah,
are
I've seen their
organic cotton and
Instagram.
sustainable for kids.
It's amazing.
Welcome, ladies.
Welcome.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
So, to start, I'll start with Danielle. You're both basically from very different industries, and we really want to hear your insights. What sort of absurd requests have you gotten from influencers?
Well, actually, I think being in the fashion industry, especially children, I receive a lot of requests for collaborators from moms, Insta moms who want to get free things all the time, all the time. And I've had parents, especially very early on, I'm fairly new at starting Bloom Moda. And early on, I would get a lot of moms, and I didn't know how to respond. So I'm like, oh, yes, this is great. And finally, I started learning about KPIs. And when I started asking them for screenshots of their Instagram insights, I even had one mom say, I don't understand why you need this information. I just want to exchange clothes. It's not like you're paying me. And they don't understand that there's a benefit for both them and us as a company. So from the industry side, from the fashion side, it's mainly parents trying to get free clothing.
Okay, that's
And
interesting.
that's interesting because if they, think about it in that way, they're not actually taking this as a real business. They're just doing it for free clothes, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's from a fashion industry perspective. Let's now look into the hospitality industry. Mia, what sort of crazy requests have you gotten from influencers for your property?
Well, we've come across with a lot of influencer asking for collaboration,
Yeah.
and in the past we did the audit check of myself or with number of team that, to be honest, we ourselves is not familiar with this industry. It's quite new for us too.
Mhm.
So we just check their Instagram, they check their posts, whether it's they have a right audience for us, and come across one day there is influencer from uh, a country I don't want to name
It's
it,
okay.
and it's they asking like huge amount of money for this promotion through the Interscom that I think it's just crazy. Okay?
Right.
And we also come across with the influencer that apparently did what we call it fraud to
Mhm.
us.
Okay. So they ask a lot
So
of cash from you, basically.
So you
yeah.
have had cash transaction questions for cash basically on
Yes.
top of hotel stays.
Yes.
And
Oh, wow.
have you thus far, did you say yes or no? Like,
No, definitely, because we use this platform as an optional to reduce our expenses.
yeah.
So we're looking for like real collaboration, like stay against their advertising,
Yeah.
sort
Okay.
of.
Okay.
That's cool. And between the both of you ladies, like these influencers, like how many of them do you actually trust has the right kind of influencer that you're looking for? Maybe start with whoever. Danielle, you sound like you have something to say.
Yes, I would say there's probably only about 10%, perhaps even less, that I actually think are the right kind of influencer and actually understand that there's a mutual benefit for the parents as well as for
Mhm.
my company. Most of the time, I think because I'm dealing with influencers on a smaller scale, they aren't aware of the business side of things and that it's a
Mhm.
transaction. It's not just me sending you free things and you posting it on Instagram. So I would say less than 10% actually recognize that.
Wow, that is that is a very low number.
Yes,
What
it's
about
very
you?
low. It's very low. I receive a lot of requests.
What about you, Mia? I mean, do you think that the influencers that you have worked with have the right kind of audiences for you so far?
Well, in the first 3 months when we go into this platform, we kind of lost. We learn it hard way,
Yeah.
but then we take one additional step that
Mm-hmm.
we finally hired the third party, like to it's they call themselves like influencer curator.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So they're the one who assist us to select and to identify which influencer is perfect or the right one
Mm-hmm.
for us. So and it helped. It helped.
Okay.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good. So they based it on like good data and good relationships that they've
Yes.
built with the
Yes. Yes.
influencer. That's great. I mean,
Okay.
I guess that's kind of like an agency, right?
Yeah.
Influencer
Correct. Yeah.
marketing
It's
agency.
like
Awesome.
agency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Mia. So for your hotel business, you've basically started engaging with a third-party service provider. And what is the actual purpose of your hotel engaging with these influencers for your business?
The fact that our brand is standalone, the luxurious villa, but it's we we don't have like that famous affiliation, like a well renowned brand like
Yeah.
name it for hotel industry,
Yeah.
especially in Bali, is very tough,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we have very good product, but we don't know how to tell the word,
Right.
right?
Right.
So with this platform, and it's really happening the digital marketing,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
we want to create the awareness.
So it's mainly for brand awareness that
Yes,
you've done
correct.
thus far,
Yeah.
and the target audience
Mm.
with the influencer has given you that ability to reach out to them. You would say,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And we've along the way we find out that it's not only awareness,
yeah.
and many often turn into business
Oh, that's great.
directly.
Great.
So you've seen
Because
conversion.
yeah, we see conversion. They contact us. They say that we see from this Instagram, we see from this posting. So that's very good result apparently after we engage with the third party.
Okay. That's
Nice.
promising to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And have they ever misrepresented your hotel brand through these engagements?
Yes, when we did it ourselves, we were young and
You're
inexperienced
still young.
that time. So there was one influencer that using their post, their picture in our villa,
Yeah.
and put it to her Instagram and saying that she is somewhere else. But of
Oh.
course, we recognize our product or design and so on. So we contacted her and informed her to remove that post within 24 hours. Otherwise, we will do legal action. But in fact, that time we really don't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did that influencer listen?
Yeah, but good. The good thing that she listened and she put it off. But if she didn't that time, we really don't know what to do because this is also quite new business for us.
Right.
Yeah.
New things to handle.
That's the thing for like new businesses. There's no like set guidelines when you enter. So, for example, like, is it the responsibility of Instagram to educate businesses who want to use their platform for marketing to give them an idea of like, okay, this is how you work for with influencers, or are brands like agencies supposed to educate you
Yeah.
to know that this needs to happen? I mean, that's the question, right? Whose responsibility is it right now? You know?
Or you learn through trial
Yeah,
and error,
well,
like
I
these
think a lot of
ladies.
people have
Learned it the
learned.
hard way,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, I did. I
come
learned
up
it
with a
hard
different
way.
solution for the next round of engagement. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, that's great. All right, thank you, Mia. So, Danielle,
Yes.
who's managing the influencers in the children industry? We're really curious about that.
um, who's managing
Is there
them?
like an age requirement for Instagram?
I mean, Instagram does have an age requirement.
Yes.
You have to be 13 to be and own an account. So we're assuming that this is a parent or not.
Or someone else.
Yes, actually, so there the age requirement is 13 years old for Instagram, but I see a lot of accounts of babies, toddlers, and usually in the comments and the description of the profile, it'll say managed by my mom, managed by my parents, so that people are aware because especially like Instagram, they would shut down the account. And then there's also the side of the parents who are posting the different photos. So I've seen like in the news in the past that Instagram has taken down accounts of parents who are like posting lots of photos of their children, because of the types of photos that they've been posting. So even so, like parents have to be careful with the pictures that they post. And there is a trend now where parents are actually putting like little stars over their children's eyes so
Oh,
that they can't see the whole face. So you can see the smile, but it kind of like hides the eyes. So it's adding this anonymity to the children since they're so young.
Do you think that impacts your branding though, if you are to engage with an influencer kid and the parents want to put stars in their kids' eyes? Like, does that
Yeah.
impact your brand?
Absolutely. I think that people are becoming more accustomed to seeing that. But in terms of engagement, people engage more from my experience when they can actually like see the child's face, when the child is looking at the camera, smiling, or even looking slightly away, but you can see the eyes and they're smiling
Yeah.
versus the shots where it's turning away. So I try not to engage with those parents, although I understand their concerns, but for my brand, I need happy, smiling baby faces.
right.
Yeah,
So that's sort of your guideline, basically.
exactly. That's one of the parameters for selecting an influencer.
And how do you feel about the fact that you already know that these accounts are being managed by their parents and, in other
hmm
words, monetizing their child? I mean, how does that make you feel when you engage with them?
I um I understand like the child industry has been around for years. Before there was
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, there were parents trying to put their kids in videos. Before that, there were the young like made up pageant stars. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't
Yep.
disagree with it. People want to get their children exposure. Every mom thinks their child is the cutest in the world, so they want
Yeah.
people to see their children. So I don't see it necessarily as a negative thing. Also,
Hmm.
um, especially sustainable fashion can be expensive
Yep.
for little
Yep.
children. So if there is a way that they can um, actually like earn a living and cut their expenses by collaborating and partnering in the right way with a brand, then I think it makes sense for parents. And it seems as though a lot of people are using Instagram and blogs to do that.
All right. Okay. That's great.
Do you find that the parents are more open to receiving clothing versus cash, or is there like do they try to ask for cash as well? Has that ever happened to you?
So far, I haven't had that happen, but I think it's because I'm dealing with Instagram influencers who are closer to the 10 to 20,000 follower range.
Right.
Whereas I
The
think,
nano micro
yes,
influencers. Yeah.
exactly. So I'm pretty sure if it was above that, like closer to 100, I would for sure have to pay cash for the posting. So hopefully one day I'll get to that point where I can partner with a larger influencer, but as of now, it's only been exchange of items for their services.
Has there been any issues with the way they the engagement that you get from there? For example, the kid posts a photo or the parents post the kid's photo, and you realize that the audience that are commenting turns out to be completely not the kind of audience you're looking for.
The audience hasn't been an issue. It's been more or less the amount of engagement. So when I send an item, it's not just the cost of the clothing, it's also the shipping, it's the matter of the timing, the season. So I sent it to one, I've worked with a collaborator and she ordered the wrong size, so she couldn't even put the item on her child. And this is so it's a matter of actually like the timing, the season, having enough engagement on their page. So this was very, very early on where I didn't pay as close attention to engagement rates, and it didn't
Right.
garner the amount of like followers, purchases from their post.
Right. That's good. It's good to know that actually, like, paying attention to timing is really important in when you're trying to and do a particular campaign or even to promote a product, because it's true. If you say ask someone to post about a product in a time where it's Christmas holidays, where nobody is, say, looking at their phones, or maybe they are, and but they're not really looking at those kind of photos, then it would be an issue for you as a brand. You're not going to get your maximum reach, and that's not the fault of the influencer, is it? Or is it the fault of the brand? That's the question.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So wrapping it up to both of you ladies, now that I mean, knowing that there are a lot of cases of influencers being fraud, how does that change your approach when you try to engage with them? Has that evolved at all? And how do you sort of like safeguard yourself, moving forward? Maybe start with Mia.
Yes, as one step we already taken, we have the third party in between to coordinate between us and the influencer. The next step we look at to the influencer that we already collaborate in the past, and then we review which one is really give us a good value, which one a very good ethic and picture result. And so we observe the whole things, and then we would prefer to collaborate with them again rather than taking somebody new that we don't know at all. And yeah, we know have quite number of influencers that collaborate for us for the second time.
Right.
Long-term strategy, long-term relationship.
Long-term relationship.
Yeah, that's
and they
great.
come back and
Yeah, that is the way forward. We do
Yeah.
agree in that.
So basically, you build relationships with a range of influencers that you trust.
exactly.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's
That's
a
That's
good,
it's much
that's a
better
good
rather than
practice.
be
Okay.
like so many
Great.
influencer of that.
Yeah, too many out there.
Yeah.
Hard to choose.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thanks, Mia. What about you, Danielle? How has this affected your approach when engaging with influencers?
Kind of referencing back to what Nat said earlier about like having a benchmark and requirements. So now we actually have standards where we need to have like a minimum number of followers. They also need to have a blog post. I do the research ahead of time before they actually share their insights to see what's their engagement rate. I check out their site to see if they are aligned with our goals of living a sustainably conscious lifestyle. And that has also helped in getting the right influencers who believe in our brand and actually go a little bit above and beyond what we request to when we ask
Right.
them to do posts. So for us, that has been help a very big help of actually setting the benchmark ahead of time, and that's how we go about it.
Okay. And do you find them, or are you sort of like taking measures based on who's reaching out to you?
Both ways, because I've actually started. So every time I receive a new follower, I send them a standard message introducing them to the brand. And a lot of times people don't read the information on your profile. And that introduces them to the brand and say, oh, this is great. I would love to collab. And then I do the research. And then there's also other brands I actually reach out to seek information and such.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think that pretty much wraps up our interview for the both of you. Thank you so much for the insightful session. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Mia. We really appreciate you coming down all the way from Uluwatu.
Thank you.
And of course, Danielle, all the way in Barcelona.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
So Nas, that was interesting. We had Mia from like a hotel brand, and then there was Danielle from, a fashion industry. What did you conclude from that?
I definitely think, despite their businesses being completely different, there were a lot of shared experiences, including the fact that a lot of influencers have, number one, duped them, especially when they first started, which brought me to the point of like, whose responsibility is it to educate them? Are they meant to educate themselves in the realm of influencer marketing? They are a business who are not only thinking about influencers, they're thinking about everything else. And in the world of digital marketing, there's so much to think about that. It makes me wonder if platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter are all allowing influencers to come to their platform and gain thousands of followers, or even practicing all these black hat marketing techniques. Shouldn't these social media channels have a kind of guideline for businesses, knowing the fact that these businesses are investing in these channels to do marketing? So
Well, why should they care if all they really want is subscribers? Because that's
True.
just a whole different realm.
I mean, it then goes back to this whole fact, like, okay, like Mark Zuckerberg's trying to go away from this whole, like, okay, business is not the main thing, that it should just be about content of what you believe in. So, as a business, though, if they are still leveraging off these channels, I think there's a disconnect of how
Mhm.
influencers come in with businesses and the social media platform being the moderator to
Mhm.
be a little bit responsible
Mhm.
of how they get duped or they don't get duped,
Mhm.
So yes, in a way you can say, oh yeah, it doesn't matter if the platform doesn't care, then they'll start losing loyalty of businesses
Mhm.
wanting to invest in their channel
Mhm.
as a channel for marketing.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of these platforms thrive off advertising
Mhm.
using these channels. And if they could create guidelines and maybe charge a little fee, I don't know. These are
Yeah.
suggestions, but I'm wondering, should there be a responsibility on Instagram part, knowing the fact that there are influencers out there? And I know they're cleaning it up by saying, okay, we'll delete all your fake followers and Twitter bots or
Yep.
whatever, which is great.
Yep.
But I think there's no harm in also giving them knowledge
Mhm.
on how to work with influencers, knowing the fact that they have the data to tell you whether or not they're fake or real,
Right.
because instead of right now, there's a lot of third party applications out there that
Mhm.
are teaching you these things.
Yep.
And we definitely know that because we use the API to
Mhm.
figure it out ourselves. But yeah, that's the truth. The truth is, shouldn't the platform be responsible too for these fraudulent influences?
I do agree. I almost feel like we need to tag them on this podcast and get them into this discussion, because I would love to hear their insight on this,
True.
because then, third party service providers, like Mia was saying, that she started engaging with, an agent to sort of like represent her brand. And
Yeah.
so it's almost like a new business opportunity for, agencies or
Yeah, it is. I mean, it
other
definitely
providers
is. I mean,
to protect,
there's a
these
ton
businesses.
of agencies out there that are just solely managing influencers for the brand. But my challenge is, how many of these agencies are actually using the right data
Mhm.
to represent? Because I've seen some who really do, and I really appreciate the ones that do.
Mhm.
And I've seen others who don't pay attention
Mhm.
to that. And if social media platforms like Instagram and all know that agencies are doing this on their
Mhm.
behalf, there still should be a rep on their end to educate people like us. Because as an agency, we still want to know. We want to
Yep.
know as much information as possible to be as clear in terms of data.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely. And what about the influencers themselves? I mean, how do we control that? I mean, frauds are just going to continue and they're going to do whatever they want, because it's a free market after all. So what do
It's
you
cowboy town still,
yeah, I
in
mean,
the world of influencer marketing.
what do you think about how do we sort of like address that in the realm of influencers?
I think for the influencer who is practicing black hat marketing in this modern day, they need to realize that tech is coming at them soon, and that it is very, very easy to detect them more than ever than before. And so find your own integrity, I guess. Be more authentic and admit to your previous mistakes, or and it's fine to clean up your list if you have to, just because these people are not the real people. At least you're being honest, and I
Right.
think that matters more than anything.
Right. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like whatever they're doing is just going to bite them back at the back. And so I do agree on that. It's important for them to start thinking about these things.
Exactly. I really enjoyed this session. This episode was awesome. And I would like to say, if you guys listening have not subscribed to our podcast, please do so now. And you need to stay tuned for the next episode, because we'll be talking about how to track your ROI when working with influencers. And it's going to be a fun one, if you're a fan of numbers.
That's right. All right. So signing out here, this is Rachel.
And I'm Nazirah.
This is a podcast brought to you by Wavemakers, an integrated marketing communications agency, recording live from Genesis Creative Center on the island of Gods, Bali.